NTV.
Because of a small or medium enterprise out there, you are enjoying some sort of coffee out there because of a small or medium enterprise, and so we want to look at their performance in the year 2022 and how 2023 is shaping better for them as they get to stabilize through the economic turbulences that is global. Now, in January 2022, Uganda fully opened its economy for business after nearly 2 years of a pandemic-related lockdown. Now, the perceptions about doing business are optimistic, as reflected by the Business Confidence Index at over 50. According to Bank of Uganda latest statistics, the Business Tendency Index increased from 52.1 in December 2021 to 52.8 in January 2022, above the threshold of 50, which I believe is a sign of improvement in the level of economic activity due to the release of pent-up demand and the improvement in global economic performance as COVID-19 vaccinations pick up. Now, Uganda's micro, small and medium enterprises, they continue to face operational challenges because of things like limited capital. Many businesses are losing operating capital because of the increase in operational costs and the significant losses incurred during the lockdown. Still, they get to suffer from those up to debt. Now, I am joined by Mr. John Walugembe, who's the Executive Director for the Federation of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, to illuminate more on these conversations. You're most welcome, and thank you for braving the weather.
And thank you for having me here this morning.
Okay, yes. All right. So we started some of these conversations early on in the course of the year, and you have been here to allude light on it. So the year is coming to an end. Can you give us your scoop of the performance of small, medium, micro enterprises in the year 2022?
Okay, so first of all, the SME sector has been on a road to recovery since 2020. So I would say that generally speaking, SMEs performed better than they did in 2020 because, as you know, 2020 was a lockdown. 2021 we also had a certain version of a lockdown then. So 2022 was the first year when the economy was fully reopened. So a lot of SMEs were able to pick up in terms of business activity. They were able to make more sales, you know. So if comparison-wise, it was a better year, and maybe that's why the confidence index is the way it is. Now, that being said, we had new challenges come up because of the global geopolitical challenges with the Ukraine war. You saw that now you had new challenges of inflation, higher commodity prices, and so on, which imposed a severe cost on SMEs. And of course, what the central bank has been doing to address this has also been rather challenging for small businesses, namely the increasing central bank rate and government's hesitancy to spend has meant that a lot of businesses, particularly those that work with government, are struggling with issues of cash flow, and also businesses are finding it more difficult to access credit from financial institutions. So this is the situation. It is better than it was in 2020 and 2021, but it would have been better. So if we remained on the trajectory of COVID-19 recovery without these new challenges, then we would be in a much better place. Okay. But I would say that overall, we see a certain form of recovery. However, businesses are still experiencing a lot of constraints.
Okay. All right. I do know that the Ministry of Finance has now more than ever acknowledged that you are definitely fundamental in the backbone of Uganda's economy. Looking at World Bank 2021 indicating that over 89% of micro, small and medium enterprises reported a decrease in turnover by about 49%, resulting from low demand for their products and services, again, because of the pandemic. Notably, Uganda has an extensive micro, small and medium sector that accounts for approximately 90% of the private sector, but of which 80% of manufactured output and output contributes about 75% of the GDP. So in estimate, how has the sector contributed to the continuous survival of Uganda's economy post-pandemic?
Okay, I think you've mentioned it, the contribution to manufactured output, the contribution to employment outside agriculture. We see that the sector is also extremely critical in terms of creating social cohesion and creating a hotbed for innovation, particularly for young people and for women. You see that a lot of young people and women that want to enter into business look at the MSME sector as a starting stone and inevitably a stepping stone towards running better and bigger businesses. So we think that the sector therefore continues to play a very critical role. I know that there has also been a lot of complaints about the informality in the sector. I think this is something that is of concern. As a federation, we are happy to work with government to see how to address this. But at the same time, we shouldn't simply look at formality as the end goal. We should look at the other benefits of this sector and how best we can support these businesses to grow before we start looking at issues around formalization, registration, things of that sort. So I think for us, we want to see that the sector continues playing its very cardinal role, and that people are that this society allows people to start businesses and to fail, because inevitably when people start businesses for one reason or another, they might fail, but we shouldn't look at that as a bad thing so long as you pick lessons and are able to start something new. Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, 2 out of every 3 business collapses and stuff. Yes, it's correct, and it's due to a number of reasons. A lot of entrepreneurs go into business through sheer speculation. Yeah. They copy and paste a lot. You know, you find that everyone is doing the same business, same business all the time. So the level of innovation, therefore, is very low. That's because they want to play it safe. They want to operate in businesses that they have seen other people operating. And because you don't have money to conduct the detailed feasibility of business plan, you're like, okay, let me use my friend's business as a proxy. Let me just copy and do something similar. So you copy the good and the bad, the mistakes and the good things that exactly. And then sometimes you cause because if you have 3 businesses, if you had one original business and then you have 4 new businesses doing the same thing, then you kind of start splitting the customer base, and then each of you find that you can't break even. So you all lose. Okay. Yes. All right. So before COVID-19, usually the stake was that some businesses couldn't make it past their 2nd anniversary of being in business. But post-COVID-19, there's been some incentives here and there to help some businesses, because obviously they had to collapse because there was no demand, there was no supply, and so many other things that were attributed to the conditions. The other thing, of course, is the inadequate collateral to secure loans, information opaqueness. You do have the low technical and management skills that continues to be needing address. You look at the competition and of course the inability to afford long-term financing. Yet government has offered these forms of financing, but they're long-term, so some of these either don't qualify or they're not in position to afford them. So you get to see that these have been some of the embedments of the struggles of businesses post-COVID-19 trying to recover. But what impacts have come with these kind of challenges? Well, some of those have become worse because as a result of the pandemic, the central bank, of course, was able to put in place a number of relief measures so that businesses would be supported not to repair and things of the sort. But in return, businesses now, rather financial institutions, find it hard to lend to MSMEs because they're generally more risky. They're more likely to default and stuff, because that's the reality. Because a colleague of mine works with a bank was telling me, if you look at our non-performing loan book, you find that a good percentage of that is made up of MSMEs. The enterprise. Yes, so there's that. Then obviously SMEs now shifted into survival mode, so issues around skilling, issues around improving their competence, those took a back seat because they were more focused on survival. Now, as you've rightly mentioned, government put in place a number of initiatives to support the recovery of the sector, put some money under the Microfinance Support Center, put some money under the Ugandan Development Bank, put some money in financial institutions, what we call a Small Business Recovery Fund. Now the performance of this has been diverse, but what we see is government is happy to change and improve the conditions to make sure that SMEs are able to access this support.
So have those particular ones been beneficial to the sector?
Yes, they are beneficial.
And at what percentage
at any rate, if someone is struggling with a problem, you know, if I'm walking from here to Owino, and you come with your car and say, can I give you a lift to Parliament? It's a good thing. Yeah. You are lessening the burden. So I think those interventions have supported to a certain extent to lessen the burden that the MSMEs face, but I know that's the 100% solution. More needs to be done by other actors. See, so, but it's a good initiative, particularly the Small Business Recovery Fund is extremely innovative. It brings together both private and public money to try to solve the financing problem. However, there's challenges around awareness, there's challenges around supporting SMEs to actually make the application, there's challenges around the involvement of organizations like ourselves working with the central bank to ensure that we popularize this initiative. So it's a good thing, a few weaknesses here and there, but I think government has acknowledged this and is taking steps to actively see that these issues are addressed.
All right, so when you say there's need for other actors to come on board and support the regrowth of the sector, what do you mean, and who are those actors you're referring to?
So I mean other actors in the ecosystem. We are talking about trainers, we are talking about business development service providers, we are talking about training institutions, we are talking about financial institutions. Yes, they've done something, but they can do more. And we are not just referring to formal financial institutions, we are referring to Tier 4 financial institutions. We are referring to private equity firms. We are referring to, pension funds like NSSF. I know they're doing something around the high innovator, but what more can they do? So these are the things we are trying to look at. How can different actors within the ecosystem come up with solutions that can help the growth of the sector? Because it's a very big problem. No one actor can solve it, even government. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, as 2020 is coming to a wrap, you have to still continue with business into 2023. So what are your projections for the business sector in 2023? And what is the Federation going to be doing about enhancing or creating an eco environment for that to happen?
Okay, so I would say that we are still in an uncertain period. We are still in an uncertain phase because some of the causes of the current high levels of inflation, some of the causes of the high commodity prices now are related to the global supply chains and how they operate and the disruptions that took place because of the pandemic. Secondly, the additional disruptions due to the war, for instance in Ukraine, and how those will have an impact on the price of crude oil globally, and how that will then trickle down here. So we are still in a period of uncertainty. Yes, the government has been trying to rein in inflation, as I've said, by raising the CBR. The challenge is that if you raise the CBR so much, you are likely to push the economy into recession. In other words, you're doing more harm to businesses than good. So, it's a period of uncertainty. I think all SMEs need to prepare for a longer period of difficulty. It's been estimated that it will take between 2 to 5 years. So I think that's something that SMEs need to keep in mind. Please be optimistic and hopeful. Yeah, I think things are they may not be as better as we would have wanted them to be, but they'll get better than they are this year, certainly, because except if some black swan event happens. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. John Walugembe, who is the Executive Director for the Federation of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Uganda, projecting optimism in regards to 2023 and how they're ensuring that all the necessary actors and contributors to the enhancement of the sector are in their place to prepare you for 2023. Now, earlier on, one of the conversations that we had, there was a statement that was shared from the Pakistan
stand of Uganda Friendship Brothers that were joining us here this morning. And allow me to pick part of that statement. Life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. And so spread some joy around the world that is next to you, the person next to you, the community next to you, your workmates, the people that you do life together with every single day. Sprinkle some joy to their world, and trust you me, that will cause you to smile. Thank you so much for having joined us for Morning at NTV. Have a blessed, warm day.